Hello and welcome to this edition of Crossover. I'm Ji Xiaojun with Dominic and Lily.
Hello.
And I have to say this, and these days it's like this story is dominating all the headlines around the world. Because Prince William and Kate Middleton are getting married on the 29th of April, that is tomorrow.
Hooray.
Right. So how big is this?
It's big. I mean, you know, I grew up in a very traditional British family, and I remember Charles's wedding. You know, we had bunting, flags outside the house.
That was where was that?
That was in the early 80s, yeah.
Early 80s.
Yeah, and then we had Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. You know, we get a day off, school, we all sit at home, we watch the television all day.
It's like a national holiday.
It's a national holiday. I can remember with Prince Charles' wedding, the electric firms in Britain had their biggest ever power rush, because halfway through the wedding, everybody got a break and they all went to make tea. You know what the British are like, we love to make tea.
Right.
So there was like power outs in many like villages around England because so many people were making tea. But it's crazy. It's a day off, so people will celebrate. But it's a different feeling towards the royal family now. It's very, very different. In those days, we would, especially coming from a middle-class family, we were very pro-royal, and it was a massive deal. Now the royal family has changed, the whole celebrity of them changed with the whole development of the paparazzi and how they've really stalked the royal family and all the divorces and the scandals behind them, and also a country in recession.
What about you? I mean, what is your response to a story like that? A prince is going to marry...
I don't really care about the prince. I love to see the princess, actually. As a girl, I wanted to see how she talks, how she dresses, and what is her so-called style. And I think in media, I've seen in media reports that people tend to compare Kate with Princess Diana.
This is Prince William and Kate Middleton?
Yeah, she's beautiful, and he's...
pretty handsome.
pretty nice looking.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole kind of, you know, the whole build-up behind it, really, isn't it? It's like the red carpet for the Oscars. You know, what are they going to wear?
Yeah.
You know, what does she look like? And of course, this is what every young girl dreams about. You know, I have 4 daughters, and they all dream at one stage about being a princess.
Yes, and to have the perfect wedding, to have the whole world watching.
That's it. Weddings are a big deal for women. I mean, you know, for a man, quite often you just want to get it over and done with. But
whether in the royal family or in just you know, an ordinary family, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, and just, you know, to go into a royal family, to be the heads of state, and to live in a castle and travel the world as a celebrity. I mean, it doesn't, you know, for I guess many women, that doesn't get much better than that.
And she's from like a middle-class family in Britain.
Well, you know what? Middle class, at the end of the day, she's from a very wealthy family. She's went to the best schools in England. She's as up, how do you say, upper class as any
so
girl
upper
would
middle
be.
class, something like that.
Yeah, she's upper middle class.
That's actually an interesting point, because I mean, this is a royal family, and when they look for the bride for the royal family, and where do they go? I mean, Princess Diana, she was actually not from the middle class family. She's just from the noble background.
That's right. Her father, Earl Spencer, was a big lord and had a lot of property. In fact, when I was very young, I worked for him on his property. He was a really nice guy.
You worked for her father?
I worked for her father when I was 16. Yeah, I got a job placement at his estate, Althorpe Estate, and I got to play in the same like area where Princess Diana played.
Really?
And stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. But traditionally, royal families would look for other royal families in Spain.
Yes. Exactly. That's what I think.
And if you look at the blood of our British royal family, actually, they're more German than they are British. In fact, their name should be Saxe-Coburg. But during World War II, because of the hatred towards the Germans, they changed their name to Windsor, which is the name of their castle down in the south of England. So really, the royal family is made up of, you know, a whole mixture of royal families from all over Europe, because they wanted to keep the blood pure, and they wanted to keep the guanxi, you know, the relationship, the connections good with the other royal families, because they were always fighting, the French and the British and the Spanish.
So it's not always Cinderella stories.
It's not. In fact, it's far from Cinderella. I mean, if you look at Princess Diana and you look at Sarah Ferguson, they had the fairy tale wedding, but look at the ending. It's terrible.
It's not just really living your life with in a new home with a husband. It's like a job. It's like a lifetime job that you have to deal with.
These royal families, I mean, they like it or not, they are seen as the role models of this whole society, and people, the society would expect to see happy marriage. They would like to see the couple living happily together.
People would like to see a fairy tale ending.
Exactly.
They live happily ever after. But real life isn't always a fairy tale.
Exactly. When the marriage ended with a divorce or something that in most cases would be seen as a scandal for the royal family.
That's right. But let's face it, I mean, you know, in this day and age, about 50% of marriages do go wrong. And there's no reason why a royal wedding, actually a royal family probably has more chances of going wrong because of all the pressure on them.
Yes. They are people. They're human in the end. And if we look at China, in history, we don't have a royal family right now, but I remember watching the movie The Last Emperor.
That's a great film.
That described the grand wedding of China's last emperor. I think that was in 1922 or something.
Well, that's the last royal couple.
Wow.
Yes.
Last Emperor Puyi on the left side and his Empress Wanrong.
Yes.
Wanrong.
That was in their wedding was in 1922 on the 1st of December.
It was so interesting watching the movie. I was quite young watching the movie, but I remembered everything. All the scenes were so dark when they were trying to film the wedding part, because it was in the middle of the night, right?
Because you know, it really has a lot to do with the timing of when the wedding is supposed to happen. Because you know, we have. At the time in the Qing dynasty in the royal court, they had, you know, these special officials deciding when would be the right time, the auspicious time.
Like the administration of like astronomy, that they look at the stars and then they would calculate, come up with a good timing and date.
If we come back to this royal wedding, Prince William and Kate Middleton, why the 29th of April?
I want to know that.
Is there a special meaning for that?
You know, I'm not a huge expert on this, but I would say, you know, the British are far more practical in terms of that kind of. We don't really go and look at speak to the astrologers, or we don't have a feng shui guy tell us, you know, about that. There's a lot of tradition about the route that they go on, but in terms of the actual date itself, it could be politically motivated, a lot of people are saying, because at the end of the day, he had to talk with Cameron, our Prime Minister, David Cameron, about a right date, because it had to work because it was going to be a public holiday. Now, some people say it's politically motivated because on the May 5th, there's a vote to change the voting system in the UK.
Wow.
Okay.
And the government are hoping, and of course, at a time of a royal wedding, the country becomes incredibly nationalist.
So again, part of your job description.
Yeah, exactly. The country all comes together and we all start loving England again, and that's going to affect the vote, which is coming up on May 5th. So some people think it's politically motivated, but also it's also just about the weather. It's about other public holidays around that time. So it's, you know, it's linked in with an awful lot of things. But you know, it's a big business too. You know, the merchandise is going to sell, you know, over £1 billion worth of merchandising.
Yeah, I mean the day and the exact timing of the wedding of that day is well, it was extremely important actually for Chinese people, especially when we're dealing something like a wedding. I mean, this is so important for our life. I guess that was extremely important for that royal family in China, for the last emperor, for the last royal couple at the time.
That's why they had to do a wedding in the middle of the night.
Really? That was the most auspicious time for the wedding.
Well, I mean, sometimes you don't lose these things, and the Olympic opening ceremony happened on the 8th of the 8th at 8 minutes past 8.
We do have a lucky number.
So it's, you know, in some ways it's still there, right?
Right. Still.
But in China, really, I mean, talking about the ordinary Chinese people, young people, when we wanted to choose a wedding date, there are traditions to follow. Also, there are other, you know, concerns. Usually, I've heard that people that would likely to have a wedding happen in the leap year or in the leap month, because they believe in the Chinese tradition that it's quite lucky. But really what we do, young people in modern days, what we do is we would first of all choose a nice season. You know, it's always spring or autumn
for the wedding
gown. And second, it's usually it has to be a weekend or a public holiday like May 1st holiday, the National Day holiday, or the spring festival, where all your friends and relatives would have time to come to your wedding to celebrate.
Wow.
I mean, the simplest way to do it, to choose the date, is, you know, if you go to a traditional calendar, and on each date, on each page, it will be written, say, this is the day suitable for a wedding, for moving your house, or for certain things. And this is not a good day for a wedding. Then you don't.
Wow.
Yes.
But sometimes people of modern days, and
that's not the simplest way. The simplest way would be close your eyes and point on the date on the calendar.
Then you can end up with a lot of unhappy relatives.
then you would ignore those traditions
I know,
of
just kidding.
auspicious day or not. But these days, as you said, and we do choose lots of weekends. And that's why you see all these wedding envoys on the weekends.
Yeah, for those people who are not familiar with living in China, it's crazy on a lucky day. As you're referring to, you go around Beijing and it's just nothing but wedding cars. Exactly.
Yes.
And some people, they have these mass weddings where 300
Yes.
people all get married together, which is very different to a British culture where it's all about being an individual, and we won't all get married on the same day. In fact, we'll just get married on random weekends. There's no particularly lucky time to get married.
But the thing is, we don't know how many people are getting married on that day. It's only, we think this is the most suitable day for us, most auspicious day.
Yeah,
I remember going to a friend's wedding. I think it was 22nd of June. It was supposedly, you have all those numbers and very lucky number 6, 22 a pair. So I went into the hotel. I forgot which floor that was. And there were 4 weddings going on at the same time. And, all the brides, they all look the same in the wedding picture.
Exactly, that's
very
going to
heavy
be a huge
makeup.
problem.
And I don't remember the bridegroom's name. So
you don't know which one you were going.
Well, it took me like almost 5 to 10 minutes to figure, which one. I was just looking at, they have those signs in the lobby, and you have to choose which one you go. And I checked, that's my friend. No, that's my friend.
Yeah, the thing is, you have your rent envelope, but you have to decide which envelope, which couple you're going to give your envelope to.
You've got to get that right.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, more stories about the royal wedding and also wedding traditions in China. Welcome back to Crossover. We've been talking about this royal wedding between Prince William and Kate Middleton on the 29th of April. And also sometimes, the wedding traditions in China. Actually, it's also been widely reported in China's media. This is just a local newspaper, revealing all the details about this royal wedding in England.
And that's
can't
a map,
imagine.
isn't it?
That's the map.
It's a map. But
starting from Parliament here, and then going all the way up to, I guess that's...
I thought they started from the
They started Buckingham Palace, and they go and then to Parliament, and then to Westminster Abbey.
And they'll come back to this. This is interesting because, according to the tradition in China, we do not repeat our route. The way out won't be the same way back in. So, but according to this map, obviously they're doing the same thing, repeating the route. But can you explain to us and where they're going, all these places? Because we do have the names over here.
Yeah, well, you might have to remind me. I know that this is Buckingham Palace.
Right.
And I know that we have Whitehall here, and then we have the Parliament Square. What do we have at number 2 here?
This is Prince Charles' residence.
Prince Charles' residence?
I have the Chinese over here.
I know, just as well, because I don't know them all. I've been away from London too long. But this is a beautiful part of London. I mean, and this road is actually painted red.
And then they would have to go really slowly.
Yeah, it's pretty slow. Actually, on the horseback, it's faster than you think. And, I remember at Charles's wedding, my auntie slept on the road here opposite, waiting.
Because it's too long.
Really?
Because she wanted to get a good spot for the wedding. And so she slept in her spot there, and then got to watch the wedding. Yeah, and
right. But how many people do you think are going to be there?
I think it's going to be thousands. There'll be thousands and thousands, and it won't just be Brits. It'll be people from all around the world who want to attend.
It'll be more than that. According to the report that I've got, 500,000 people will be on the street for that occasion.
Really? So in 1922, which way did Puyi and
we do have a little map for you. That was, again, nearly 100 years ago. But the route that they took was also something that had some special meaning. Remember, there is a woman of the Forbidden City that is like the entrance front gate of that complex, and for the main one, and for the gate right in the very center, that's actually the gate specially designated to the emperor only at the time. But there were some occasions when that can be used by others, by the empress. That was only when
during her wedding.
The wedding was done, and she was about to come out of the Palace Museum.
Yeah, that's the only
City.
time. Yes.
That was the only time.
Yeah.
Not the way in, but the way out. And the other time would be for, the winners of the royal examination, the national examination at the time.
The top 3 winners,
the top 3.
usually. When they come out of the Forbidden City.
They would have the chance to go through the middle door.
Yeah. So it's like building a huge gate, and you know, not many people can use it really.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of that tradition with the British royal family too. I'm just not familiar with it all, but you know,
I'm sure,
if you were to speak to a royal expert or some of these royal correspondents for the BBC, they know about all that kind of stuff.
But do you have any connections with the royal family?
Well, funnily enough, very distant in that my family used to be doctors to the royal family, about sort of 4 or 5 generations.
Whoa, the royal doctors.
Royal doctors.
Royal doctors, yeah. So, my family's quite a long tradition. But I guess we used to be considered as aristocratic, but now I guess, you know, as many families did, they lost their mansions. And, you know, when you get to the 3rd generation, all the money's gone, you know. So
you're getting closer to the Chinese royal family there. You're living in Beijing.
But I think for ordinary Chinese families, the route that the wedding cars go usually is from the bride's home to the wedding venue. Usually, right? The groom should go to the bride's home and then pick her up.
Yeah, I went to a great wedding in Shanxi where we did that, and then we all got to the door of this huge home. It was like a courtyard home, and the men were smashing on the door, and there was this big fight, and apparently it's a tradition that the women hold the door. And I was caught in the middle of it thinking, what's going on? It's terrible, the wedding's all falling to pieces, but it was all part of the, you know, the ceremony, so the women were holding on, and eventually they threw money in, and then they let everybody in to go pick up the wife.
To make the men remember, it's not easy to have your wife.
So I'm just wondering what's going to happen during the wedding. Is it going to take the whole day, or...?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You got the whole build-up in the morning. Everybody's going through the analysis, what's going to happen.
They have that little parade, and there will be
then you've got the parade, then you've got the
audience.
ceremony at, I guess it's Westminster Abbey, which is a beautiful, beautiful church. And then the ride back to Buckingham Palace. And usually they then get on the balcony, which is where all the famous photos are of all the royal family together. You'll have you'll have his brother Harry, you'll have Prince Philip and the Queen. You won't have Sarah Ferguson.
Why?
Sarah Ferguson is not invited to the royal wedding.
How come? I mean, she's divorced, but she's the auntie. Still considered?
Yeah, she is the real auntie of Prince William. She was married to Prince Andrew, who is obviously William's uncle. But if you've been following media, there's been a lot of scandal with Sarah Ferguson. They got divorced. They remain good friends, but she got stuck in a scandal where some British tabloid paper approached her and said, if we could get access to your husband, because he's the head of the Trade Council, we will give you £500,000. And she agreed, and they took cameras and filmed the whole thing. And then they showed handing over some of the money, and then they put it in the newspaper, and now she's...
So that's interesting, because, you know, obviously kind of different from what's happening in China in a wedding like that. I mean, you might have some argument about, you know, between all these family members, but when something like that is going to happen, if it is something big for the family, I guess all these guests will be invited, unless, I mean, maybe that is a big issue at the time. But the topic is, I mean, who would get invited for the wedding? And because I guess, you know, there will be the official dinner, official reception, official gathering, and who would be invited for that?
There's even an official song. George Michael
song.
And then released it and gave it as a present to Prince William and Kate Middleton. You've got a huge list of A-list celebrities that come. Then you've got all the royal family, extended royal family. Then you've got all the charities that they represent, people from the church. It's the
from
politicians. It's a list of who's who in Britain and to some extent overseas as well.
Right.
You know, it's all very brand building. At the end of the day, you're courting the media, you're building a brand. That's what the royal family are doing. They want to stay in power. And why isn't Sarah Ferguson there? Because they don't want her on the balcony at the end. When they have all the nice pictures, people are going pointing out there's the woman that took £50,000 from a newspaper.
So when you say on the balcony, is it going to be the couple themselves only, or with the guests?
No, it's with the whole family.
There's
a very famous moment when they get on the balcony and they kiss. If you remember Prince Charles' wedding and Prince Andrew, that's when everyone goes ballistic. Everybody gathers in the square and they all wait. And they wait for them to kiss. And when they kiss, the whole crowd goes berserk. And then they kiss again and then they go berserk again. It's like, you know, and then afterwards they traditionally then get on a boat or whatever and they leave for their honeymoon.
What a moment. I mean, you have to kiss in front of virtually the whole world. That's an awkward moment.
That's why it's a fairy tale for all
part of the job description. Huh? the first day of work in the royal family. Right. Now we're going to take another short break, and when we come back, more stories about this royal wedding. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Crossover. And we've been talking about this royal family, Prince William and Kate Middleton, to be held on the 29th of April. That is tomorrow. A huge wedding, not only for the royal family, not only for England, not only for
a worldwide
UK,
audience.
It's actually for the whole world, I guess, and all these media organizations are talking about this. Talking about this, I guess they're going to have this royal dinner. So what kind of food are to be served for a
I've
wedding
seen it in
dinner like that?
reports. They're having like a 12-course dinner.
It's not officially revealed yet, but they're referring that to the menu of the previous one.
Yeah. Yeah, they bring in
Prince
celebrities,
Charles
chefs, and
Princess Diana.
That's right, traditional meals. It's not something that I'm really up to date with, but but if you're a royal follower, there's plenty that you can learn about that.
We don't know yet. I mean, for ordinary people, we don't really have that, big a chance to be a part of that celebration. But, we can participate in our own way, I mean, at least to some people in England and also in other countries. And this is...
that cheese?
That is Stilton cheese, which is a very British cheese. It's absolutely probably my favorite cheese in the whole world. It's normally served up at Christmas, actually, in England.
So it'll be served for this wedding?
Yeah, it'll be served for the wedding. In England, most families, we buy one of these big rolls of Stilton for Christmas. We eat it, and then at the end, what's left over, you can turn into soup and other things. It's delicious, delicious, very heavy and very strong. But this is the royal Stilton, I assume. You also have royal ham that we would also buy when we were young as well. There's some salmon.
Royal salmon?
Royal salmon, you have, that comes from Scotland, royal salmon.
I thought the salmon fish came from a royal fish family.
Well, there's a lot of royal fish. You have these designated royal providers in England.
Yes.
So you can get jam, it's got the crest on, clothes, and royal salmon comes from Scotland. It's also smoked up there. You've got oysters that come from Cornwall, which is where I'm from. You've got ham that comes from Leicestershire, I think, and other different areas of England, which is all different royal-approved foods. Yeah. And so they'll all be served up at the banquet.
Okay. That also be included in that royal menu?
Well, it could be. It looks very nice, though. I don't know.
Is it lamb?
Lamb or
It looks
beef?
like lamb chops or...
Lamb chops.
Yeah.
Or beef.
Probably lamb, I would say. Lamb's quite a British meal as well.
Okay.
You've got royal lamb that comes from Wales.
And what's in special is where and when that is being served, and obviously we can find something similar in restaurants. I mean, nice restaurants, but again, that is in there, and that's what makes it different.
Yeah.
But talking about plates, say. I've heard about some news reports about being the plates, specially made plates, being used as presents to be given to all these guests.
Yes, and I've read that in news. It's so interesting. We have this factory, this company in China. Yeah, they actually produce all the plates.
The plates are
for
from
the wedding.
Tangshan in North China. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the manager of the company actually told a story that she once was invited to a party in Sweden or by the
Swedish royal family.
Yeah. And then
they got an order from the Swedish
actually
royal
presented
family,
a plate with a picture of the Swedish princess and her husband to her as a gift. And then the Swedish princess was very happy about it, so she referred that company to Prince William.
Well, originally
and
the royal potter, the royal plate company was called Wedgwood, and they went bankrupt. As many British companies do, and and I thought you were going to say that Wedgwood were bought by a Chinese company, which wouldn't surprise me. But
not part of this story, though.
No.
Yeah, but this has been, according to the report, that they've booked like 50,000.
Well, it's not like a very big deal for the company, but it's very good advertisement.
It's good brand building.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, fantastic to do something for and it fascinates me actually just how excited the Chinese are about British royalty from a country that has no royal family anymore.
Exactly.
To be part of the royal wedding or to know someone in the royal family is such a big deal.
I guess it's part of the Cinderella fantasy thing.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And this is like, a living fairy tale.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why actually, there is a similar story about the the wedding ring. Take a look at the picture. You tell me which one is the real one that will be used as the
Wow.
Oh.
Is that a
wedding ring.
sapphire? What stone is that?
Yeah. Looks like a sapphire.
It's a gem anyway.
Yeah, it's a big gem. Which one? I would say the one on the hand looks to be older and sort of more, but you know what, I'm no jeweler.
Good one. That's the real one. But the one on the left is the one made as a souvenir by a Chinese company.
That's the company EU.
That's
that
the company EU. That's not exactly the same. You know, they've made some twists, I guess, out of the IPR consideration.
It's a royal ring with Chinese characteristics.
But you guess, and that is also a very popular item actually on the internet. Yeah.
I bet. Yeah, I mean the merchandising behind it is just huge. I mean, I bought my mother a tea towel, you know, with the happy couple on. She's for her Mother's Day present.
Really?
So happy with it. And I've still got the old mugs that I had from the Royal Jubilee when it was the Queen's Royal Jubilee, and also from Prince Charles's wedding and Prince Andrew's. I've still got the old.
Have you got anything back, say memorabilia from your experience of working for Princess Diana's father?
Not really. I had a picture of me like in Princess Diana's Wendy house. You know, she had a house where she was a kid when she was playing. Because I was working in their garden and helping them out with the estate. So I didn't take anything as such. I always wanted to, you know. I remember my mother went to Buckingham Palace and I asked her to steal the toilet roll for me. I want some royal toilet roll, but she didn't do it for me.
Again, and for ordinary people, we wouldn't have the chance to be a part of that royal wedding.
I mean, there are Chinese people who actually are now planning to travel to the UK and to all those special places that is concerned, that is related to the royal family.
You can also go there at least, you know, to be a part of that street audience.
Oh, you mean on the 29th of April?
Yeah, tour packages.
Oh,
really?
Is it Twango?
Not Twango, but tour packages.
It's a Groupon deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, that's great tourism. And I read something interesting in a newspaper yesterday that one man applied to have an anti-royal wedding party. Because in England, you can apply to have a protest or a party whenever you want. You just have to apply to the government. And he was refused. So it made it into big news in the newspaper because he wanted to have the anti-royal wedding party. He thought it was a bad thing. So he wanted to have a party to celebrate that they shouldn't have parties or celebrate that they shouldn't have weddings, but the government...
That turned out to be another party.
Yeah. So the government have stopped it.